Antifa is going to be designated a domestic terrorist organization. We have seen a rise in violence perpetuated by Antifa radical people across this country who subscribe to this group. And we will also be most importantly looking at who is funding Antifa and who is funding these other violent left-wing groups that we've seen perpetuate so much crime and mayhem across our country.
So the White House says Antifa is, quote, a militarist, anarchist enterprise that explicitly calls for the overthrow of the United States government, law enforcement authorities, and our system of law. And the wild part? They say that with a straight face, all while ignoring the people that are really trying to overthrow democracy right in front of our faces. So let's break that down, right? Let's break down the whole thing. They said Antifa, which literally means anti-fascist, wants to overthrow the government. But fascism is when a government becomes authoritarian, controls dissent, and punishes resistance. So if you're anti-fascist and the government calls you a terrorist, that says more about the government than it does you. This isn't about safety, it's about optics. It's the same playbook they used during COINTELPRO. Take movements for justice and rebrand them as violent, unhinged, or anti-American. They did it to the Black Panthers. They did it to anti-war protesters. And now they're doing it to anyone who refuses to smile while this country slides straight into authoritarianism. Because labeling resistance as terrorism is how power protects itself. So here's what fascism really looks like. It's not flags and dictators in other countries. It's banning books about race and gender. It's punishing teachers for telling the truth. It's threatening journalists, criminalizing protest, and calling that law and order. That's fascism right here, right now. And the people fighting against that, they're the ones the White House just called a terror threat. They want you to believe that fascism only exists in history books. But fascism evolves, just like anything else. It learns your language, wears your flag, and calls itself patriotic. And every time someone fights back, this country finds a new word for them. Radical, agitator, domestic extremist. It's not new, it is branding. The White House says that Antifa is a militarist anarchist enterprise that wants to destroy America. But what's more dangerous? The people fighting fascism, or the people so comfortable with it they're labeling anti-fascism as a crime? Because if being against fascism makes you a threat to the system, then maybe it's time to ask what kind of system we're living in.
I am the leader and founder of Antifa. And Kristi Noem has taken my girlfriend and they're trying to get her to give up information on us. And I am not going to be blackmailed. And so it's time that I reveal the truth. Antifa is not funded by George Soros. Antifa is being funded by Stephen Miller. And if you don't believe me, then prove me wrong. Prove that I am not the leader of Antifa. Prove that I didn't found this organization, that we're not worldwide and well-funded and well-organized. How about you prove that Antifa is fake, or prove that I'm fake? Because Stephen Miller has been our mastermind all along.
The president just announced plans to label Antifa a major terrorist organization. But here's the truth you won't hear in the headlines. Antifa literally means anti-fascism and anti-authoritarianism. It's not an organization. There's no headquarters, no membership, no central leadership. It's an idea, not an institution. We've seen this playbook before in the McCarthy era. People were falsely labeled communists and destroyed by accusation. In the civil rights movement, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was wiretapped and harassed, thrown into the cesspool of communism, a label he had nothing to do with. Prophetic discernment tells us this new label is preemptive, a move to silence voices before they can call out authoritarianism. The Bible says, stop judging by mere appearances, but instead judge correctly. Watch, pray, speak truth, defend due process, reject guilt labels. Plant today's thought in the garden of your mind and let your consciousness grow with it. I'm Ed Gray.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So Donald Trump once again went after Antifa, calling them a terrorist organization. But let's stop and think. What is really Antifa, and why did Trump choose to go hard on them? Antifa is not a single group with leaders or offices. It is a loose movement of people who stand against fascism, white supremacy, and far-right violence. So when Trump tries to label that as a terrorism, it raises a huge red flag, because being anti-fascist shouldn't make you a terrorist. Let's be honest, Trump's move wasn't really about national security. It was about politics and control. By calling Antifa a terrorist group, two of these people were out there calling for justice, equality, and police reform, not destruction.
Donald Trump's team just released a video called Antifa Exposed.
Antifa beats journalists. Antifa attacks our police stations. They attack our courthouses. They dox our law enforcement officers. No more.
A month ago, Charlie Kirk was murdered by a violent leftist. We all saw it, and we all saw thousands of leftists celebrate it.
If you want to get to the bottom of who is fomenting this chaos and violence in our country, you must follow the money.
I was a mainstream reporter in Seattle for 10 years before I quit mainstream media, in part due to its refusal to acknowledge the dangers of Antifa and radical left-wing violence.
But here's the thing. It's not journalism. It's propaganda. This isn't about safety. It's about control. Trump is trying to convince Americans that dissent is terrorism, that free speech is a threat, and that he's the only one who can save us from it. But the truth, Antifa isn't a terrorist group. It's an idea, a decentralized movement against fascism. This video, shared by the White House itself, is taxpayer-funded manipulation, a fear campaign built to silence critics and distract from Trump's failures. I broke it all down on my Substack, the lies, the psychology, and how to protect yourself from propaganda. Links in bio. Read it, think for yourself, and don't get played.
So the evening of September 17th, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, designated Antifa as a major terrorist organization on his Truth Social account, saying, quote, "I am pleased to inform our many USA patriots that I am designating Antifa, a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster, as a major terrorist organization. I will also be strongly recommending that those funding Antifa be thoroughly investigated in accordance with the highest legal standards and practices. Thank you for your attention to this matter." Now, this move appears to be tied to broader White House rhetoric about combating left-wing extremism, because there's been a lot of folks out there that believe that there might have been some extremist organizations that potentially radicalized the shooter of Charlie Kirk, the assassin of Charlie Kirk, and they think that there's a possibility that may have been the root cause to it. Now, here's the thing about Antifa. It's kind of a loosely organized, decentralized anti-fascist movement, and they don't really have any leaders or headquarters or membership lists or any real formal structure. It's more of an ideology or a label that was adopted by various activists around the United States. Obviously, there's a lot more of them in areas that are heavily populated, or they fly in there from other places that are more rural. I don't know. There's probably people being paid, I would imagine, to attend a lot of these protests dressed in that way for some of these things.
Is Antifa a terrorist organization? No, it's not. For something to be a terrorist organization, it has to be an actual organization. That means structure, that means leadership, that means someone in charge. And last I checked, there's no guy named John Antifa running the show. Antifa isn't an organization, it's an idea. And it literally stands for anti-fascism. It's just people who refuse to support fascism. But here's the problem. Our wannabe fascist president doesn't like that. He doesn't like people standing up against his power, so he's pushing this narrative that if you're anti-fascist, that somehow makes you a terrorist. Why? Because if he can convince people of that lie, then when peaceful protesters start disappearing, then he can just say it's for national security. That's terrifying, because once you start targeting people for their beliefs instead of their actions, you give the government permission to jail or kill whoever they don't like, whoever dares to speak out. We cannot let this narrative be pushed. It's dangerous, it's authoritarian, and if we stay quiet now, speaking out might soon become a crime.
So let's be real. Calling Antifa a terrorist group is not about safety. It's about silencing dissent. It's about making people afraid to speak out against fascism, racism, and injustice. If standing up to hate makes someone dangerous, then maybe the problem is not the protest. Maybe the problem is the system that refuses to listen. Because at the end of the day, being anti-fascist is not terrorism, it is human decency. Okay guys, thank you for watching this video with me. Do not forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. See you in my next video.